Okay, so in this video, we'll be going to illustrate how does it work for multiplicative Holt Winters seasonal method. So given that we do have a data set given right there, which is the 2020 up until 2025. So given that we are having the 0.4, 0.3, and 0.2. So it will be different here than for initialization because it is not like with the initialization of the additive that you're for the seasonality and only, but for the level and trend it will be the same thing. Now we'll be going to identify first the level of 2020, and that will be level of 2020 as initialization. Um that is given the data. I'm so sorry with that noise. 360, the average is still plus 490 plus 200 plus 590 plus 395 plus 695 divided by 6. Now, for this one, 360 plus 490 plus 200 plus 590 plus 395 plus 695, 360, 490, 200, 590, 395, 695. That is 2,730 divided by 6. Divided by 6, that will equate to 455. So your data for the level 2020 level, that is having there that is definitely like that. So for the trend right now, the same thing. Trend for 2020, it will be the same thing, that 490 minus a 360. Then 200 minus 490. Then 590 minus 200. Then 395 minus 590. Then
Dong, dong.
sorry. I'm sorry. And afterwards, it will be 695 minus 395. So this is how you will deal with this, and that is n minus 1. So the n is 6 minus 1. So that's how it work then. For this, after, what will happen? We will just deal with that accordingly. 490 minus 360, 130, 200 minus 490, negative 290, plus 590 minus 200, that is 390, plus 395 minus 590, that is negative 195, plus 695 minus 395, that is 300. So by calculating that one over your 5 already, and then 130 plus 290 negative plus 390 plus 195 negative plus 300, that is 335 divided by 5. So that is 67. So for this one, this will be the trend of 2020 right now. And for getting the seasonal index, I mean seasonal initialization, that is since there is multiplicative, so we will be going to deal with a division for this one, since as what being mentioned in the previous, that is the quotient between the actual value and the level. So that means to say 2020, that is 360 divided by the level, divided by level is 455. So 360 divide 455, that is 0.79. And for 2021, that is having 490 divided by 455. And 490 divide 455 is equals to 1.08. And 2022, for 2022, I'm so sorry that automatically exit. So for 2022 class, it will be basic. So 2022, 200 over 455. Divide 455, that is 0.44. And then for 2023, is 590 over 455. That is 1.30. Since only two decimal points, it will begin to deal. And 2024, that is 395 divide 455 is equals to 0.87. And 2025, we are having here then as 695 over 455. So 695 divide 455, that is 1.53. So for this one, we're done with that calculation for this seasonal initialization. So take note with that. So I'm sorry with that noise. It's a lot of noise here in my actually house. So since you were able to initialize already, we can now definitely apply the formula that we do have right there. For the level of 2021, we can start using the level of 2021. We can definitely use already the formula, which is the alpha. Then your alpha right now, you are having 0.4. 0.4 times with the YT. What is the data set for 2021? The 2021 is 490. So 490 divided by the ST minus M. When we see ST minus M, that is the seasonality previously. What is this previous seasonality that we do have? That is definitely the previous seasonality for 2020 is 0.79. 0.79. Then afterwards, you will begin to plus that with a parameter 1 minus 0.4 times that into the previous level. Previous level is definitely 445 plus the previous trend as well. The previous trend that you do have is 67. Okay, something like that. So what you will need to do, you have to divide that first. 490 divide 0.79. That is 620. 620.25 plus 0.6, 455 plus 67, that is 522. And then 0.4 times 620.25, that is 248.1 plus 0.6 times 522, that is a 313.2, and it will become plus 248.1 561.3. Trend of 2021.
Okay na ko daw.
Okay, for this one right now, for the trend of 2021, we're having here the beta. For the beta is 0.3. So beta is times that into the current level. Your current level is 561.3. Then minus that into the previous level. Your previous level is actually 455. 455. And then you will be going to plus that into the parameter, 1 minus 0.3, and then times into the previous trend. What is the previous trend that you do have? That is 67. And then what will going to happen right now? 61.3 minus 455, that will equate to 106.3. So put it again, 0.7, then 67. And what will happen? 0.3 times 0.3 times 106.3, that is a 31.89 plus 0.7 times 67, that is 46.9, okay, plus 31.89, that is 78.79, your current trend for 2021. Then your seasonality, your S2021, that is the gamma, and your gamma is actually 0.2, and 0.2 times into the y of t. What is the value of 2021? That is 490. 490 over the level previously. The previous level that you do have, the previous level is actually previous level is 455 minus the previous trend. The previous trend is 67, right? Yeah. Okay. Then afterwards, you have to plus that into the parameter itself, plus 1 minus 0.2. And then your previous seasonality. The previous seasonality for this is actually 0.79. So 0.79 is your previous seasonality. So 0.2, you will begin to 455 minus 67. That will equate to 388. 388. And then plus 0.8 times 0.79. And it will equate to 0.2 times 490 divided by 388. That is equals to 1.26. And then plus 0.8, 0.79. So calculating that manually, 0.2 times 1.26, that is over 0.25. Then plus 0.8 times 0.79, that is 0.63. So calculating that one, it will equate to 0.63 plus 0.25. That will become 0.88. So your seasonality right now is 0.88 already for the 2021 alone. Now we'll begin to move on to the level of 2022 already. So for the level of 2022, the alpha is 0.4. And then your 2022 value is 200. And then your current seasonality is 0.88. And then plus this is the parameter 1 minus 0.4 times into the previous level, which is the previous level that you do have is 561.3. 3, and then plus the level that you do have, trend that you do have previously, 78.79. So it will become 200 divided by 0.88. It will become 227.27. And then plus 0.6 times 561.3 plus 78.79. That equates to 640.09. Okay, so 0.4 times the 227.27, that will become 90.91. Then afterwards, 0.6 times 640.09, that will equates to 380, 384.05. So calculating 384.05 plus 90.91, that will become 474.96. This will be your level of 2022 right now. And getting the trend, the same thing will happen. Your beta, that is 0.3 times into the current level, which is 474.96 minus the previous level that you do have is 561.3, and then plus the parameter 1 minus 0.3, and then times into the previous trend. The previous trend that you do have is 78.79. So what will happen for this right now? 0.3, then 474.96 times minus 561.3. That equates to negative 86.34. And then plus 0.7, 78.79, and that is 0.3 times 86.34 negative, that will become negative 25.90. So for 0.7 times 78.79, that is 55.15. So calculating that 125.90 negative plus 55.15, that will equate to 29.25. So that means to say your trend right now is 21.25, and we'll calculate the seasonality of 2022 as well. So the seasonality of 2022, the gamma is 0.2. So the 0.2 is definitely 200 over the previous level that you do have is definitely 561.3, then deduction with the previous trend, which is 78.79. So you will begin to multiply, you will begin to add as well the parameter 1 minus 0.2. Then afterwards, you will begin to multiply that into the previous seasonality, which is the 0.88. So right now, by calculating that one, it will become 561.3 minus 78.79, and that will equate to the 482. No, I'm sorry. 0.2. The 0.2, that is 0.2 200 divided by 482.51. So calculating that one, the parameter will become 0.8 times 0.88. For this one right now, 200 divided by 482 0.51, that will equate to 0.2 times the 0.41, and then 0.8 times 0.88. So calculating then will become 0.2 times 0.41. It will become 0.08. So for this one right now, 0.8 times 0.88, that is 0.70. So calculating them, 0.08 time plus 0.70 will equate to 0.78. So this will be the calculation of the seasonality of 2022. So since that there will be still since we still have the data for 2023, 2024, 2025, you have to extract everything. Since you cannot calculate that if you were not able to calculate everything in a step-by-step manner. So that means to say, you need to really step by step. So we'll be going to continue the process already. So the process for this, just a second. For this right now here, let me just let me give me a second because it's too noisy right now. Okay, there you have it. So let's calculate the 2023 already, the level of 2023. 2023, our alpha is 0.4. Then the data of 2023, the 2023 data that we do have right now is given here at 590. So the 590 is your data. Then over the previous seasonality, your previous seasonality is 0.78. This is 0.78. Then plus into the parameter, which is 1 minus 0.4, then multiply that one into the previous level, which is your previous level is 474.96, and you will be going to add that into the previous seasonality, previous trend, which will be 29.25. So calculating that one, by then 590 divided by 0.78 is definitely 0.4 times 756.41, yeah, 41, plus the parameter 0.6 times 474 0.96 plus 29.25, that will equate to 504.21. So calculating it then, 0.4 times 756.41, it will equate to 302.56. And for this one right now, 0.6 times 504.21, and that is 302.53 because it's 526. Now, calculating it then, 302.56 plus 302.53, that will equate to 605.09. So therefore, your level of 2023 is equating to 605.09, and we'll be going to get the trend as well for 2023. So your beta right now is definitely 0.3. And then you will multiply that into the current level, and your current level is 605.9. Then deduct that into the previous level, and previous level is 474.96. And afterwards, you will be going to add that into the parameter 1 minus 0.3 as well. And you will be going to multiply that into the previous trend that you do have. The previous trend that you do have is 29.25. So 29.25, calculating that here then, 0.3 is definitely 605.9 minus 474.96. That will equate to 130 0.94. And then after that one, your smoothing parameter will become 0.7 and 29.25. Okay, and for this one right here, you will calculate this 130.94 times into the 0.3 parameter, and that will equate to 39.28. And for this one right now, for 0.7 times 29.25, that will equate to 20.48. So for this one right now, 39.28 plus the 20.48, that will equate to 59 0.76. your current trend for the 2023 year. And afterwards, you will begin to get the seasonality for this. This I'm so sorry because my free form just went off. Let me just open that one and we'll just continue. And by the way, class, I'm so sorry that it was so noisy here in my background because of course there's a lot of um people here in our house currently. However, we'll just continue with the seasonality of 2023. So the seasonality 2023, that is the gamma, and your gamma is 0.2. So 0.2, then your current data for that one is 590. Then the current data of 590 will be divided by into the current the previous level, and your previous level is 474. 0.96, then you will deduct that into the previous trend, which is a 29.25. And by the way, just make sure that you were not able to do it wrong, because once you do have a mistake from the start, it will be basically wrong in the latter part as well. Afterwards, 1 minus the parameter 0.2, and then you will multiply that into the previous seasonality, which will be the previous seasonality that you do have is 0.78. So calculating this one, you will be going to go first with the 590. I don't know, with the denominator 474.96, the time minus that into the 29.25, and that will equates to 445.71. And after the parameter will become 0.8, then calculate that into the 0.78, and 590, you have to divide that into the year 445.71, and it will equate to 0.2 times 1.32. And for this one here, 0.8 is 0.78, and then 0.2 times 1.32 is definitely 0.26. And afterwards, 0.8 times the 0.78 is definitely 0.62. Afterwards, you will begin to add up 26 plus 0.62. That will equate to 0.88. So I know, class, that this is definitely a horrible calculation, because of course you have to step by step the process. However, you need to really do that the same time. After that, we since we're done with the level of 2023, we'll calculate the level of 2024, since we're not able to calculate that yet. So the level of 2024, calculating the level of 2024, given that your alpha is 0.4, then what is the data of the 2024? The data given right there is 395. So your data is 395. And then afterwards, you will calculate that over that into the previous seasonality, which is the 0.88, and multiplying that or plus that into 1 minus the parameter 0.4. And this one here, then you will be going to times that into the previous level, which is the 605 point. Your previous level is 605. I'm so sorry, my pen is not working. 605.09. Then you will be going to add that into the previous trend as well. The previous trend right here is 59.76. Okay, so given that we do have that data already right now, you will begin to calculate it manually as well. 395 divided by 0.88, that will equate to 0.4, then times into 448.86. And afterwards, you will be going to add that here. I'm so sorry that my pen is not working right now. I don't know, maybe it's low bad already. Just give me a second. 448.86 plus the 0.6, then 605.09 plus 59.76 is definitely 664.85. So, by the way, in your examination, if our exam will equates to 500 items, of course, you have to expect that everything will be calculated manually. So make sure that you could be able to work on that on hand, because definitely once you will have a simple mistake, it will turns your life down. Now, 0.4 times the 448.86 is 179.54 plus the 0.6 times the 664.85, that is 398.91. And calculating that one, you will add that into the 179.54, and that will become 578.45. So this will be your level of 2024, and then you will be going to get as well the trend of 2024, which will be your beta is 0.3 as well. And then your level, current level right now is a 578.45, then minus the previous level, which is the 605.09. And then afterwards, you will be going to add that into the parameter, which is the 1 minus 0.3. And you will multiply that into the previous trend, which is the 59.76. 59.76. So in this category right now here, calculating 578.45 minus the 605.09, it will equate to negative. So 0.3, that is negative 26.64 already, and plus the 0.7 and 59.76. So in this one right now, you will begin to calculate 26.64 negative times 0.3, and that will equate to negative 7.99. And then plus the 0.7 times the 59.76, that will equate to 41.83. So calculating that one, negative 7.99 plus the 41.83, that will equate to 33.84. Then that is your trend for 2024, and you will be going to get the seasonality for 2024 as well, that given your gamma is 0.2. So 0.2, then your numerator is the data. What is the data for the level? That is 395. No, I'm sorry. 395 over the previous level that you do have, which is 605.09. 605.09, that is 605.09 minus the previous trend as well, which is the 59.76. 59.76. So calculating that one, no, there is still here the parameter, which will be 1 minus 0.2, and then you will times that into the previous seasonality, which is the 0.88. 0.88. Now in this category, 0.2, copy as is, then the denominator first. So the denominator is 605.09 minus 59.76, and that will become 545.33. So for this one right now, it will become a 0.8 times 0.88, and then calculating here then is 0.2, 395, calculating that 545.33, it will become a 0.72. So calculating this one as well, 0.8 times 0.88. So for this, you have to simplify 0.2 times 0.72, and that will become 0.14 plus the 0.8 times 0.88, that will equate to 0.70. So right now, 0.14 plus 0.70, that equates to 0.84. So this is the data for the seasonality of 2024. And lastly, we still have the data of 2025, and we have to get the 2025 level as well. I know that it's so long actually, but the calculations for this one will maybe your answer maybe one yellow pad or back to back of yellow pad, that's fine. So 2025, and by the way, what we'll be going to forecast in the future, you have to forecast 2026 up until 2030. So for this one year, we have the 695 for the 2025 year. So 695, your alpha is set into the 0.4 times your data 695 over the seasonality, previous seasonality that you do have is 0.84. So 0.84. So plus the parameter 1 minus 0.4, and then times into the previous level, which is the previous level is set into the 578.45. So 578.45, and then you will be going to add that into the 33.84. 33.84. So calculating this one, it will become 695 divided by 0.84. It will equate to 0.4 times 827.38. And then plus 0.6, then 578.45 plus the 33.84, that will equate to 612.29. So calculating this one here, 0.4 times 827.38, that equates to 330.95. And 0.6 times into the 612.29, and that will equate to 367. Oh my goodness, that went out. So let me just go ahead and reopen that so that we could be able to finish this one. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, so for this one, oh my goodness, so 0.6 times 612.29, that will equate to 367.37. So 330.95 plus the 367.37, that will equate to 698.32. That will be the level of 2025. So remember that this 2025 data will be used for the forecasting technique later on. Now, for the trend, you will be going to get the trend of 2025. So given that your parameter is 0.3, then your you will times that into the level, which is 698.32 minus the previous level, which is 578.45. And then plus 1 minus 0.3. So times that into the previous trend, which is 33.84. 33.84. And afterwards, calculating this one here, 698.32 minus 578.45, that is 119.87 plus, oh, no, I'm so sorry. 0.3 times 119.87 plus 0.7 times 33.84, and then 0.3 times 119.87, 35.96 plus 0.7 times 33.84 is 23.69. So plus 35.96 plus 23.69, that is total of 59.65. So this is the total that we do have here, and your trend and your seasonality of 2025 is definitely you have the gamma as 0.2, then your current data is 695, then divided by the current, the previous level, which is the 578, point 578. This is the 578.45 minus 33.84. So that is plus the smoothing parameter 1 minus a 0.2, and then times in the current, the previous seasonality, which is 0.84. So that's how it will it work here. So 0.2, 695. So the denominator 578.45 minus 33.84, 544.61. Then 0.8, 0.84. 695 divided by 544.61, and that will become 0.2 times 28 plus 0.8, 0.84. So 0.2 times 1.28, that is 0.26, plus 0.8 times 0.84, 0.67, and 0.26 plus 0.67, that is 0.93. So this is the data that we do have. Thanks God that we're done with this one. And we will now be going to forecast already the data for 2026 up until 2030. So the forecast of 2026 is with a formula given that your level is 698.32, and then plus that into the H. Your H is the one because this is the first year, times into the trend, which is your trend is 59.65, 59.65, and then times that into the seasonality initialization. Then the seasonality initialized earlier, that is 0.79 for the first 0.79. So for the year 2020, so we'll begin to use that one. This will be used for 2026, 2027, 28, 29, 30. So up until 27. Now we'll begin to see here 0.79. So it will become, calculate that one first, 698.32 plus still 59.65. Then it's already times here, so 0.79. Unlike with the additive that we're just adding that earlier, so it is basically different. Now it's times already. So for this one, calculate the times first. 59.65 times 0.79 is equals to 698.32 as is, plus 47.12. So you will be going to calculate 47.12 plus the 698.32, that will equate to 745.44. And this is the data of the forecasted data for 2026. What about for 2027? For 2027, it will be the same process. However, what will be going to change here is the seasonality initialization as well as the age. So it will become, no, it's 2027 already. So the 2027, that is 698.32 plus the 2, it's the H, and 59.65. Then the seasonality initialized here, the seasonality initialized is definitely 1.08. So 1.08. Then here, calculate the 2 times 59.65, that is plus 119 So 1.08, calculate that one times into 1.08. That's 119.3. So it will become 698.32 plus 128.84. So afterwards, you have the 698.32 plus 128.84. It will equate to 827.16. And this is the data for forecasted data for 2027 then. What about for 2028? So it will become 698.32 still, plus your age will become 3 because this is the third year that you are forecasting. So 59.65. Then your seasonality initialized for the third one is after this 1.08 is 0.44. So we'll can definitely use that one, 0.44. Okay, so that is definitely your data right now. 690, no. You will be going to calculate first the 3 times 59.65, and that will become 178.95 times 0.44 times 0.44, that is 78.74. So this is actually 698.32 plus 78.74. It will become 777.06. So that means to say, I'm so sorry. That means to say your forecasted data for 2028 decrease from 827 goes to 777.06. And for the forecasted data for 2029, from 698.32 plus 4 times 59.65 and 0.44, or actually earlier is your data. I'm so sorry that went off. You will be going to actually reuse that one. For example, you're forecasting the data of 2031, since you still have the data of 2025. Then if you will be going to get the 2027 data, you will be going to reuse from the very basic here in the 2020 year. Now we were able to use already the 0.44. That means to say we can use this 1.30 already. So 1.30 here, it will become 1.30 already as the data that you do have. So what you will be going to do, 698.32, 4 times 59.65, that is 238.6 times 1.30, 238.6 times 1.30, that is basically plus 310.18. So plus 698.32, that is 1008.5. So this is your data for 2029. For forecast data for 2030, basically 698.32 plus 5 times 59.65. Then your data for that you'll begin to use here for the initialized data is definitely 0.87. 0.87. Now calculating this one here. So 5 times 59.65 is definitely 298.25, 0.87. So 698, 298 0.25 times 0.87, that is 259.48. And then 698.32 plus 259.48 is definitely 957.8. So this is the forecasted data of 2030, and that went, if you will begin to deal with that, if you will begin to draw that, 745 increase, 827 increase, 707 decrease, and 1008 increase, and then it drops. So it's something like that. So anyway, that ends how we'll begin to calculate the 2030 up until 2030. If you will begin to get a 2031, it will become 6 here, and the data that you'll begin to use is 1.53. So I really do hope that you were able to understand everything. How were you able, how are we able to deal with the calculation for the seasonality? I mean the Holt Winters seasonal method, which pertains to the multiplicative Holt Winters, and that ends on our video. Thank you so much and goodbye and see you. I'll be going to also create a video for the per chart analysis in the separate